Always reviews and comments are welcome here on the show. Send us your comment on our social media handles. Join us on TV on Facebook. Join us on TV also on Twitter. Send us a tweet with the hashtag The Pulse. We'll be glad to share your thoughts with the rest of the world. And we begin today from the Eastern region, where the Regional Security Council is currently in a crunch meeting on a day when 5 persons are in critical condition and some 16 others have sustained gunshot wounds after the police fired gunshots, tear gas, and pepper spray at residents of Afram Plains. The residents had marched to present a petition to the Donkorkrom District Police Office over what they say is the alarming spate of armed robberies in the community. And that turned into a clash with arson hitting the police barracks in the community. The residents want the Inspector General of Police, John Kudalo, the Interior Ministry, and the Regional Security Council to investigate the armed robbery attacks on residents and a recent bullion van robbery incident in which some police officers were involved. Let's bring you the latest from the community right now. We can speak to a local journalist, Enoch Nyadu Buafo, to give us some updates on what's happening in Donkorkrom right now. It's been a very chaotic day. Let's get you an update. Enoch, good afternoon to you.
Hello, sir.
Enoch, can you hear me? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Great. So you are in Donkorkrom as we speak. What's happening there now?
Okay, so far so good. There have been a calm sound here, and then business is ongoing. As today being the market day in Donkorkrom, and as earlier on I told the reporter, they went there peacefully. They did not go there in violence, but unfortunately, at the end of it, everything turned upside down. The police returning fire on the civilians who went there to present their petition. It's rather unfortunate. I speaking myself, they pointed gun at me as well, and then I was given a little pepper spray just because I've been the press man over there going to interview or going to ask one or two things from ASP Amevo, who was leading the men at that time.
Okay, Enoch, let's not go into what happened to you personally and your issues with the police. I just want details now. For those who are injured, how are they faring as we speak? We are in some 5 in critical condition.
Hospital, and then I just returned there before the call came in. We've recorded 18 people who have been affected by the gunshot, 5 in critical condition, and 1 person is a pressman from RAP FM, where I also work.
Okay.
He is in a critical condition, very, very critical.
When you say critical, what does it mean? Are they in coma? What is it?
Come again, please, sir.
When you say they are in critical condition, what does that mean?
Yeah, the bullet, they shoot him through his private part.
Yeah, in his groin, you mean?
His private part.
Okay.
So according to the doctor, he told us that we should pray for him. Otherwise, we lose him. The pressman who is working at RAP FM.
Okay, that's fine.
Went there.
Enoch.
I was there with him, recording.
Okay,
he was taking the video.
Enoch, you may have to take your time and give me the information. I can understand the emotion and the groundswell of anger in the community as we speak. But for those who are injured, beyond the man who got shot in his genitals, who are the others who are in critical condition?
Good. I can give you some names who are also in a serious condition as I speak to you, if I should do so.
Not the names, but their conditions. What kind of critical condition are you referring to?
The 5 I mentioned, they are out of the theater as I'm speaking to you. But left with 1 who is working at RAP FM. He is not yet back. He is not yet back from the theater.
Okay.
Since at the time of 12, when the incident happened, he's still not out of the theater.
Okay. And for the other 18 who got shot, have they all responded to treatment?
Yes, please. They've all responded to treatment. I was at the hospital myself, the Donkorkrom Hospital, Presbyterian Hospital. I was there myself, and then everybody is being treated. everybody is being treated.
You say today is ordinarily a market day in Donkorkrom, Enoch. I'm sure trading is not happening, but beyond you saying there is calm in the area, describe what you see. Are people still milling around? Is there increased security? What's happening?
Actually, we have reinforcements from Kokodia who came in this afternoon about some hours now, about 1 hour now, who came in to calm the situation down because it wasn't an easy task. So when they came in and then peace has prevailed, whilst everybody is going up and up, initially you can't go through from RAP FM to the police station. You cannot walk through that road because it was full of gunshots. But as I'm speaking to you, everybody is going up and down. And then when you get to the marketplace too, business has started moving on. But unfortunately, those who are afraid, they've all gone home. Nobody was able to trade.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Enoch. You've already mentioned that for those who are injured, they have been taken care of. But do we know what the demonstrators who went out today to voice out their concerns about the spate of armed robbery attacks have been saying in reaction to what has happened?
Good. What they were trying to tell the ASP in the morning was they have their letter, and what is written in the letter, which we also received, was if they've been able to release the truth, telling the people that they've run away, then they should try hard and leave the civilians also. So if the service personnel has escaped, then they should also try and leave the civilians, or they should bring back the truth. They should bring back the truth. And secondly, they don't want any policemen. Those who are currently here, they should all move out and then bring new policemen, because there are some policemen here who have been here for about 10, 11, 12 years, which know all kind of areas here, who they were also pointing some figures at 1 or 2 policemen who they claim alleged that they are also involved in the robbery case. So they should carry them all away and then bring in new ones.
Okay.
That was their main reason why they went to the
I get that. All right. Thank you, Enoch Nyadu Abuafu. He's a local reporter in Donkorkrom, giving us details of what's happening in the town right now. It's been a day of a lot of blood in that area. Almost 18 people, as we're learning this afternoon, have been injured. 5 in critical condition. Only 1 is still in the theater receiving some treatment. We will bring you some more updates and speak to the police about how this demonstration turned violent and what's being done for those who have been re-arrested. Let's now do some politics here on The Pulse. The governing NDC and the opposition MPP have come up tops in a survey in which many Ghanaians thought they were most guilty among all the political parties in the country when it comes to that issue of vote buying. Vote buying, as the name suggests, is the situation where parties and candidates distribute material benefits to individual citizens in exchange for votes. Now, the survey was conducted by the governance think tank Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, on the environment prevailing in the country ahead of the 2016 polls.
We wanted to find out what Ghanaians thought about those things that would make the election a good one. So again, majorities expect that the following aspects of the 2016 election to be free and fair, though in all cases, over a tenth to nearly 1/5 are pessimistic. So again, we think that peace and security for all citizens is key, resolution of post-election disputes, the counting and reporting of results, because again, we are discussing electronic, transmission of results and that sort of thing. So that is important for Ghanaians in thinking that would help the quality of elections. The availability of information on all candidates and parties. Again, that goes to the media. You've got to be fair in the coverage you give to all political parties. Equal treatment of all candidates by the media, and equal access to resources by all candidates and parties. there's the current news is on abuse of incumbency, so I'm sure you understand what that means. But this is a true reflection of what Ghanaians think would help improve the quality of our elections. So what is the perceived neutrality of the Electoral Commission? Because that is the referee of the match. So how do Ghanaians think, what they think about the EC? So again, a clear majority of Ghanaians believe the EC performs its duties as a neutral body guided by law. However, a third think the EC takes decisions meant to favor particular people or parties of interest. So who are the culprits of vote buying in Ghana? Again, this runs parallel to, the violence, the kind of results we saw when it got to vote coercion. So the two front runners, the NDC and then the MPP, are the most cited parties that sell their votes.
Not just the NDC, as the charts show, it's the two leading parties. As you can see, the other parties almost don't even record any numbers. And that is reflective of the two dominant parties who have been in power over the number of years. But basically it's just to track the incidence of vote buying. We talk about it all the time anecdotally. We say parties buy votes and so on. We want to see what is the incidence. Have people actually been offered money? What do they perceive about the political parties buying votes? And large majority says they believe the parties buy votes. But they also say that some of them are prepared to sell their votes as well. So for me, it is not just a question about the parties, which I think is a problem for democracy, for our democracy, but it's also a problem for the public. What is your actual experience of vote buying? Okay. But that's a question of evaluation, but there's also a question about what do you perceive to be the truth. Do you think parties engage in vote buying? Majority say yes, we believe. Then you track also actual incidents. Okay. Have you experienced? Do you think your neighbors have experienced? Do you think your neighbors will take money and vote a certain way? So we track both the opinions, their perceptions, but also what they evaluate, what they think they've experienced.
Right, so that's the issue of vote buying. Then the detail of that survey as spelled out by the Center for Democratic Development. Well, some key questions still to ask about this issue of vote buying. Almost every election year we hear it being told over and over again by the civil society groups. But how come it's not changed? How come the people still take it? How come even if it's an issue, it's still staying with us and it's not going away anytime soon? Well, joining us via Skype for more on this is Dr. Franklin Odro. He's with the Center for Democratic Development. Thank you, sir, for joining us here on the show. I guess the first question that you ask is this. Year on year, we do this kind of reports. We say the two main parties are leading. They are paying too much, giving too many gifts and incentives for this. But what's been the underlying cause? What's been the underlying cause of this challenge, vote buying?
Thank you very much. But first, I would like to make a correction. I'm not Dr. Franklin Odro. My name is Mohammed Awal, and so that's the first correction.
Thank you for the correction, sir.
Yes. It's difficult to come to a certain understanding about what the causal factors are. But as we are all aware, there are anecdotal evidence. So you go around our community, you observe campaign processes, what is done in our constituencies, and you see these things exchange hands in whichever way they are. There is also the issue about high levels of poverty in our communities. And so these are some of the things that may explain why parties may be predisposed to doing these things and these actions. But beyond that, our survey has not sought to find out the underlying reasons why these parties give money. But essentially, it's votes that they want.
Again, I need to ask, because as I mentioned, almost every election year, this issue comes up. Votes buying, abuse of incumbency, we complain about it, and yet that trend does not change. So yes, the parties may be guilty, but what about those who are taking it? For those who are saying the two parties are leading, did they tell you why they also take these gifts when they are offered?
we did not ask them specifically why they do so, but it raises a broader question around civic education, and that's where we think that the NCC and other institutions that are charged with doing civic education need to up their game in terms of what citizens' responsibilities are, what citizens need to focus on many of these public issues or these public election activities and so on and so. That is where we see a lot more in the media. For example, you have a critical role as well to play in terms of how we direct the issues around our campaigns around issues and making sure
about, okay. Sorry, Mr. Mohammed, we may have to have you readjust your camera so we can see a bit clearer. So we'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll complete this conversation with CDD, because oftentimes when the reports come out, the two parties are singled out for not doing the right thing in terms of buying people's votes. But what causes all of this? Is that also a reflection of the kind of democracy we are practicing in this part of the world? Details on that after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the pulse. And just before the break, we had mentioned that that interview with Mr. Awal Mohammed of the CDD to get some more information on that research they've done. Well, he's joining me now back on the line via Skype. I hope that the feed is much better. Yes, very much better. Thanks for joining us once again, Mr. Mohammed. I can see you better, much more now. So on this issue to do with the report you've done, I was mentioning that year on year in every election year, this issue comes up, vote buying, someone doing it better than the other. But are we also able to understand the motivation here?
That's what I said. What I said was that it may, if you look at the state of well-being in our community, in our societies, you may attribute one such reason to the reason why citizens may have said. They said it's wrong, but it's understandable. So the fact that they understand it's a wrong practice, but you can understand it, it's sort to speak to a certain societal acquiescence of the activity because of the nature and the difficulties that we face as a society. When you go to many of our rural areas, you can understand why a politician would want to give somebody a cube just for a soup, a pot of soup, rice, a bag of rice, a plate just for them to vote for them or to invite them to a rally of a sort. And so these are issues that we may have to interrogate further, but our data did not ask reasons why such activities are ongoing continuously. Okay, now for the data you sampled, tell us, how big was the sample? Where did you go to? Who did you speak to? So we sampled 2,400 Ghanaians. We went into all the regions, into 163 districts and so on and so forth. So essentially what we did was to look at the national representativeness of our own population and sampled out of that. And for these individuals who say either the NDC or the NPP are the most guilty when it comes to vote buying, did they in which period did you ask this question? Because the election year started just about 3-4 months ago. So, for example, we went into the field from July 2nd to July 18th. So that was the period in which we conducted the survey. But as you rightly mentioned, there is history to some of these things. And so we wanted to also again test it again and understand A, whether they understand that this practice is wrong, and B, whether it is punishable, and then whether it is something that should be accepted in our political practice. So that at least as the evidence comes out now, we can have a conversation about it. The good news is that the greater majority of citizens think that it's a wrong practice for you to buy vote and for us citizens to sell our vote. And so that for me is the good news. And so it's up to us, the NCC, who do a lot of civic education, to sort of look at this data so that the small proportions of our citizens that think that, yes, we accept it or we know it's wrong, but it's an acceptable practice. We drum it in the head that, yes, it's wrong, it has to be punishable offense, and that they don't have to engage in them at all. And for our political activists, for us to understand that it's better you campaign on issues rather than buying vote. We don't think that is a useful process for our political development and for governance and for development of this country. Okay, now you mentioned the issue of campaigning on issues, but in that survey you did, the pre-election survey, it talks about one party being good at vote coercion. What's that about? Essentially, we wanted to ask the apprehension and the fear that citizens have going into the 2016 elections. And so that it is in that context that we asked that question. Do you fear that you are punished, somebody punishes you for your vote. We haven't disaggregated the data to be able to find out from whom and who does that worse. And so it would be a further interrogation that we may do to our data based upon the dynamics that we have in the data in terms of political support, political affiliation, and so on and so on. But what they said is that largely they do not fear the secrecy of their vote, but also they fear that, yes, a small minority fears that, yes, they get punished. They fear that they will be punished if they actually vote on the choices that they have. That, for me, is worrying, because in a democracy, in a context such as this, it doesn't have to happen. Even if it is one person who fears that he or she's choice would lead him or her to a certain violence or to a certain threat, I think that it's wrong for us as a country.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mohammed, for joining us today. He's the Senior Research Officer at the Center for Democratic Development. I was asking that question about what's the motivation for all of this. Maybe he's not the best person to answer. We'll have representatives from the two parties, the NDC and the MPP, come and explain to us, because if it's been happening in almost every election year, is that what we are reducing elections to? Buying votes and not asking people to vote for them based on the good ideas and policies they have proposing to the electorate. We'll look at that later on here on the show. But from coercion and vote buying to another issue that's also very important for us, it's about the right to information. Well, representatives of the Coalition for the Right to Information are calling on the president today to stand by his promise to ensure that the passage of the bill into law by the end of this term actually comes true. Members of the coalition were scheduled to meet with the Chief of Staff today, since the president, as you may well know, is currently on a campaign trail in the Western region. The president of the Ghana Journalists Association and a member of the coalition, Dr. Afilmoni, says Parliament has been deliberating on this bill for over a decade, and the lack of urgency from political leaders is largely to blame for the delay.
The coalition is of a firm conviction that political will is so conspicuous by its absence in the whole process of passing the bill into law. We do recall that during the Kufuor regime, we were assured that the Right Information Bill was going to pass into law. 8 years came to pass and nothing was done. President Atamesu, who succeeded him, promised that during the first 100 days of his presidency, the bill would pass into law. He passed away and the bill was consigned to oblivion. And the current president, who is a communicator, who understands the value of right to information law, has also been promising. In fact, he's made a litany of promises, but none has come into fruition. So we are here to present a petition to the president to urge him to use his influence to ensure that before his current term ends, the Right Information Bill must be passed into law.
Well, the Executive Secretary of the POS Foundation, Jonathan Osei, notes that the delay in the passage of the Right to Information Bill could result in a substantial loss of revenue to the state if the bill is not passed before Parliament rises.
If information is readily available, why will some people go to court for a court to rather ask the public institutions to give them that information? We are not talking about any ordinary information. You see, he who controls information controls everything. They decide to give you the kind of information you want to shape your thoughts. But we are talking about information that when you need, it will help you to participate in governance and promote the agenda of development. Some of this information, we don't have them. Because if you have them, then we'll be able to help government fight corruption. There will be transparency. There will be accountability. There will be citizen participation like we're talking about. So we are not talking about mere information or other ordinary information that may not be so much needed in terms of national development. So we are talking about having access to quality information to enable the discussion on governance enhancement. It is important. Other countries have passed it. Nigeria, Liberia, South Sudan, some countries that we may pride ourselves in some context better than them in terms of democracy, have passed the law and it's working. Nigeria is an example. Why can't Ghana do the same? In 2008 manifesto, NDC promised they were going to give it to us. 2012, it was part of the campaign issues. We are just asking the president not to make it a campaign issue this time, because the fourth parliament of the Fourth Republic went through the same exercise, went through the whole country, collated ideas, input from citizens, and at the end of the day, the bill was not passed into law. That exercise, with funding all over, went to waste. Now this is the fifth parliament. We know in some few months this parliament will elapse. Are they also going to leave, having gone through the exercise again?
Right, well, joining us for more on this issue of why the bill has not been passed and the kind of pressure being piled on the president to do so is the co-chair of the Right to Information Coalition, Vitus Azim. Thank you, sir, for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So today you went to the presidency to what? Send a petition to him? Pile more pressure?
Yes, we went to the presidency to present a petition to the president, because we think that if the president is committed, he should be able to intervene on this to get Parliament to pass the bill.
But if the document in question is before Parliament, why put pressure on the president?
Well, we're not putting pressure on the president. We are pleading, petitioning him to intervene, because we know the last 2 weeks, a number of bills were passed in Parliament. And some of the parliamentarians said, these are very important bills, the president wants them passed. And they passed them. So we think that, and we believe that if the president wants the bill passed, it can be passed. One, he has majority in Parliament. And two, they have promised, the NDC party promised this country before each of the elections that we had in the past 2 elections, that they are going to ensure that they pass that the Right to Information Bill. In addition, we've signed on to some international conventions and initiatives like the Open Government Partnership Initiative. One of the criteria was that you have a right to information law. In the case of Ghana, we said, we had a right to information bill before Parliament, and that it was going to be passed. That was 2013. We're in 2016. It has not been passed. We've made some commitments on anti-corruption. These commitments, if we don't honor them, it is a dent on the image of the country. And so we think that the president has enough grounds to be able to persuade, considering his position as leader of the ruling NDC, to persuade Parliament to pass this bill before Parliament rises eventually.
But why not speak first to the conscience of the leadership of the House, the Speaker, the Majority Leader, the Minority Leader, in having this passed?
We've spoken several times to the leadership of the House, except the Speaker. We've spoken to the Majority Leader a number of times. We've spoken to the Minority Leader since 2013, when the bill was before Parliament. We've met various committees, had breakfast meetings with the Public Accounts Committee. We've talked to individual MPs, thinking that those that we think have influence, we've spoken to them. It's not working.
Do you know why it's not
working? We have not been able to meet the Speaker, because anytime we try to make an appointment, it's always difficult.
But do you know why it's not working?
Well, officially, what they say is that there's too much work to do, that the amendments that are proposed to the current bill are too many for them. It will take a lot of time, and that they have more urgent things to work on. And we believe the Right to Information Bill is as urgent as any other bill, because when you sign a public finance management if you enact a public finance law, you need Right to Information Bill to be able to enforce that law. You need access to information. You need a journalist and citizens to be able to get access to this information, to take government on, to hold government accountable. So without a right information law, those bills are not going to be very effective. So we expect Parliament to see this as a very, very important law.
You mentioned that the excuse to give is that some other bills are more important, that they need to push through as soon as possible. But if you are considering also the kind of amendments that have to be done, and from what I'm told, it's well close to 1,000.
Well, it doesn't actually matter the number of amendments that are supposed to be made.
But
Parliament's
that takes
work,
time, isn't it?
Yes, Parliament's work is facilitated by committees. We have worked, the coalition has worked with the relevant committee, I think Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, and come to an agreement on most of the bills. In fact, all the controversial issues, we come to agreement. And the Majority Leader has told Parliament that the committee has done a good job. So some of them are just grammatical corrections. They are not serious controversial issues that will need so much time. And in any case, we have evidence of laws that are bills that have been passed. We are going through all this. So if the committee has done a good job, as admitted by the Majority Leader, why do we need so much time again to do this?
Now, you went today to the presidency to ask that he influences for this to happen. If that doesn't, then what?
Well, as civil society organizations, we continue to advocate. We don't have the power to use force, but we will continue to advocate. Maybe if it doesn't come in this time, the next government will continue to do that. I think that's the best that we can do. Of course, when Parliament resumes and we don't hear any promising thing, we might have to picket Parliament.
Picket Parliament?
Yeah, maybe go in there every day with our placards to say, please pass the right to information bill. And continue to put pressure on them, maybe even individual parliamentarians. Because we are convinced that this bill is very important. And our neighboring countries, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia, countries that we think we are performing better democratically than and economically than, South Sudan, a recent country, they have right to information laws.
Okay.
Why is Ghana not doing that?
There's one thing you said that clicked me. You said officially, when you ask why this has not been done, they say there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Yes.
Unofficially, what do they say?
Well, I wouldn't say unofficial, but from our perspective, we think that information is power, and so it scares people in power to give access to information to the citizens, because they are going to use it to get information that they think may not be in their interest. For example, we have asset declaration law. People just fill it, put it in an envelope and seal it, give it to the Auditor General. Nobody has access to that information unless you make an allegation of corruption against an individual person. Then the Commission on Human Rights may ask for it, or a court of justice may ask for it and lead it. But if we had the right information bill, we could have gone to compel the Auditor General, please release the list, at least the list of those that have filed their asset declarations. Up to now, when you ask the Auditor General to release, he wouldn't say it. And we say, even if you don't want to release it, at least just say, release those that have passed, have filed. They will not take you on because they have done the right thing. Then leave it to Ghanaians to decide who has not filed.
And they will deal with it.
We'll look
but
at
see,
it.
With what you just explained, that information is power, and for those in power, that's very uncomfortable for anyone to have. Then it means that on the face of that, we just might not have this passed at all, because the same people you say are afraid that this kind of information, which is power, will get into our hands, don't want to do it.
Yes, but then we also expect them to put the national interest above their individual power. Their individual interests. They have been elected by the people to go there and make laws on our behalf. Laws that will benefit the majority of Ghanaians and not those individual 275 or 76 members of parliament. And we think that they are people of a conscience, with a conscience. They are people that have gone there because they want to work for this country. So we are hoping that they will let reason prevail. They will let national interest override that of their personal interest.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Zin, for joining us today. I'm sure that for the discussions on this issue, it will continue for quite some time, because Parliament, we know already, is on recess. But let's see if when they return, they will do something about the right to information bill. If they do, good news. If they don't, that could mean that our rights, as we are looking forward to access information in this country, will still have to wait a bit longer. Moving on to some other stories, a group calling itself the Coalition Against the Proposed Concession Agreement for the Electricity Company of Ghana has accused government today of intending to hand out ECG to a private investor for pittance. Addressing a news conference, convener of the group, Richard Nyama, gave government a 5-day ultimatum to review the structure of the compact with the Millennium Challenge Corporation, or else face court action.
As we are currently speaking, in its assets and liabilities is worth $4 billion US. $4 billion US. Why will our government want to sell it for $400 million, 1/10 of its values? Somebody should be asking and answering this question. I will be very grateful if you ask the relevant sector ministers to give us answers to this. If they dispute the value of ECG as pertained in the external consultants who have advised on this transaction for ECG, then government should tell us what the value of ECG is in their understanding. We want to know what it is that went into it. And in any case, what methodology did government use to value ECG as we speak to make it worth $400 million US? How did they arrive at $400 million US? when a foreign consultant, a reputable foreign consultant, has valued that same company at 4 billion? Somebody should be telling us that. Secondly, we want to know what the role of our parliament was in coming to this decision. Is Parliament aware? Does it have a full complement of the facts on the sale of ECG? Because Parliament represents you and I. We elected them there. We all cannot take decisions. And so Parliament does it on our behalf. What role did they play? Are they aware that the actual value of ECG is $4 billion and that we are giving it away at $400 million? Now, we've also indicated that we're going to have local content issues. As you and I speak, on the 11th of February this year, our government in a cabinet decision, and if push comes to shove, we will put out the cabinet memo and let Ghanaians see how our government is giving everything away to foreigners. IFC valued ECG at $200 million. How they came to that value, I don't know. But the government then in the cabinet meeting put the value at $400 million. They should tell us how they arrived at that. But we are saying that our cabinet met on the 11th of February this year and decided to give ECG away. Now, we have local content laws that we are seeking to even strengthen and ensure that Ghanaians take a larger stake in these companies. And yet, in this particular deal, local content was totally ignored. I am saying totally ignored. There is no aspect.
Let's interrogate these claims a bit more. Richard Nyama joins me in the studio today. Richard, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Frank.
Ordinarily, we don't hear you talk about these kinds of issues, but once you've raised it, let's look at the details as you have it. You say that you have reason to believe that this deal to have ECG handed over to a private investor is giving it to a company for pittance. How do you establish that?
Right. Good afternoon to viewers. Number one, there is an independent consultant that has valued ECG, both assets and liability, at the current rate of $4 billion. As you and I speak, revenue raised by ECG in the power distribution sector and all that per annum is $1.3 billion. Over the last 5 years, our oil receipts, what did we make? $3.5 billion. So someone should tell me how come a $1.3 billion like revenue generating company is a failure. Somebody is running ECG down with their mouth to sell it for cheap. That is the number one point that has to be made. If you are getting 1.3 billion from ECG annually, how come you are telling us that it's not doing well? Okay, and you, the one selling it, actually owe the company $500 million. You are prepared to pay the $500 million because somebody tells you so. Millennium Challenge Corporation asks you to do that. And when you do, they will give you $498 million. Actually less than what you are going to pay. And what is the sense in that? What is motivating this?
But again, this issue was trouble, and I know for the workers, they've had cause to raise similar concerns like this. The argument that has come through from those in the power sector is that the efficiency issue at ECG has not been fixed. You talk of commercial losses, you talk of revenue collection. These two key reasons are why they are thinking the management system should change. So you give it to a private person, they handle it, bring proper accounts and make it viable again.
Okay, so you have a problem with the distribution losses. You have problems with
revenue collection.
Revenue collection. You see, I have had cause at one of the stakeholder conferences actually suggest to ECG that privatize the collection of your revenue. Give it to me. Give me one district to collect revenue. And then if I underdeclare or if I don't bring in as you expect, okay, you surcharge me for the loss and see if I will not give you 100% recovery. The basic problem is the fact that the government is involved in the whole thing. The losses we are talking about, where is it coming from? Government owes ECG $500 million. It's due to collection. 30% of ECG's debt is due to government, agencies and departments. Let government pay that and you see if ECG will not do well.
You say it's 30% of the total debt. That means 70%, which is not from government, is still not collected.
No. I'm saying that when you take ECG, currently, their revenue collection rate is actually 95% from you and I and private business. When you add government's collection to it, the rate comes down to 67%. Okay, and so the chunk when it comes to actual revenue, you will get other losses that would involve the line leakages and all those faults in the system. Okay, and sometimes your machines breaking down, you fixing them will all count as a loss. Okay, but in actual fact, revenue coming to ECG, government doesn't pay 50% of their indebtedness to ECG per annum. You do not expect ECG to run that way. So the point is that if you are ready to do that by giving it to an American or a British or whatever, why can't you give it to Ghanaians to do it? That is our point.
But the search for a concessionaire has not ended. There are Ghanaian companies in there who are bidding for it. So why do you quickly say that it's being handed to someone else?
Yes, because of what we are seeing.
What are you seeing?
The IFC and MEDA have an interest in this, and so they are actually impersonating Ghanaian agencies, state agencies, okay, and making this thing look as if it's a giveaway.
For that kind of statements, I want evidence, because to say they are impersonating is quite a very tough allegation that you need to substantiate.
Yes, Francis. This is a document. I don't know if you can read the listing for your
concession for the management of operation of an investment in the electrical distribution business of the ECG. Draft tariff methodology for discussion with PURC. This is an internal document, isn't it?
It was dated 29th of April 2016. Yeah, that is why.
Draft. Where is it coming from? Sorry, where is this coming from?
This was authored by MEDA and IFC.
Where's the evidence? Because for documents like this, there should be some evidence. Anyone can type this.
Right.
Where's the evidence that is actually an authentic document from MEDA? No, answer this one first.
I'm answering you. Read this document, the heading, and compare exactly what you have here on this, and you see
this speaks to this is by the PURC.
Yes.
The letterhead is there boldly.
Yes.
It speaks of circulation of draft tariff methodology by MEDA.
Okay.
And that it's come to their notice that the MEDA and its transaction advisors have widely circulated a draft tariff methodology on concession for the management of operation of an investment in the electricity distribution business of the ECG.
That is the first part you are reading. Draft what? Tariff methodology. Exactly. So the PURC of Ghana has cause to tell MEDA and IFC to stop impersonating them, and that they, PURC, are the only authority in Ghana that legally can do this.
And this was dated May 6, 2016.
Yes.
Do you know whether this has been done? The withdrawal of this document has been done?
No.
As we don't know whether it has been withdrawn?
Not that I'm aware of. Look, they didn't just impersonate the PURC. They impersonated the Energy Commission of Ghana.
Okay. Is there a separate letter that also confirms this?
Yes, there is.
Where is it?
I unfortunately didn't carry it on my person. Next week, we have given the government 5 days to respond to this officially, because we are where the government knows of this criminality taking place. And the government, for us, this was an opportunity for the government to have acted, because if you look at the draft agreement that the IFC brought to government, and which government sat on the 11th of February 2016 at the cabinet level and adopted.
Do you have cabinet memos for this? Do you have evidence? Because the things you say are heavy allegations. I need evidence.
Yes. Trust me, I would make the cabinet memo
until you bring that evidence,
available.
I cannot independently substantiate what you're saying.
That is fine.
So you cannot be held for this.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that on the 11th of February 2016, the cabinet sat on this matter and took certain decisions. The cabinet of Ghana is aware of this letter from PURC and the Energy Commission. We are saying that if they have our interests at heart, they should be acting on this matter. When this comes to the attention of the United States government, under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act 1977 and then the Securities and Exchange Act 1934, they would obviously take MEDA and IFC on. And so if our government fails to do anything, we would be petitioning the US government through their embassy here, and then we'll subsequently go to court because we think the government is selling us out. But next week, if the government does not come and give a reason and position why they are doing what they're doing and not pursuing our interest, we will hold a stakeholders forum where we would make available to the Ghanaian people and the world the sort of decisions our government have taken.
Okay, now
evidence.
If you've seen issues relating to documents and how things have not been properly done, why not notify the body in charge, say the PURC, say the Power Ministry, to rectify this?
They have done their bit. You can see the letter from the PURC.
That's PURC. I'm taking the Power Ministry here.
Yes.
Are they aware of this? Have you notified them on these
Look at the people the PURC copied. Look at the list.
Copy the President, the Finance Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, Energy Commission. Okay,
so that is why we are saying that the government is aware of what is going on, that IFC and MEDA have taken over this process, and they have their personal interests they are pursuing. The government is doing nothing about it.
In terms of finding a concessionaire, that's in the ambit of MEDA, isn't it?
Oh yes, but if you are doing it and it is our detriment, at our detriment, we will not allow it.
Which part of it is to your detriment?
The amounts they are quoting, whatever. Look, ECG is annually investing $100 million in just its network operations. What is happening currently is that we are looking for a concessionaire that would be investing $15 million a year. What are we talking about? If we are currently doing double that, why do you want anything less? You are looking at a company coming to take over ECG that should be valued in the region of $400 million US, so that you have the capacity in your assets and liabilities. You are worth $400 million. You're coming to take over a company worth $4 billion. Where is this coming from?
It's private management. They are not buying it.
They are not buying it. I am telling you, they are buying part of ECG. That is the palpable lie that is being told to Ghanaians. In the CRP that is out there, they are giving all movable properties to the concessionaire. So we are selling it to them.
Well, we have tried independently to reach the Power Ministry for some responses to the issues that Mr. Nyama and his group are raising about the concessionaire process. We've been unable to reach them. As soon as we get through to them, we'll try and get to some responses to these concerns that have been raised. Well, they're giving government 5 days to respond. Let's see what happens in this regard. But Mr. Nyama, thank you for coming today here on the program. Thank you.